Hey everybody, I wanted to show you a little tip today. If you happen to have a kiddo at home who's a little hesitant to touch wet foods. And the way we're going to learn this tip is by making a kale salad together. And I'll show you how to incorporate this strategy into something as easy as making a salad. So what we're going to do is, if I had a little kiddo next to me here, we'd be pouring out. I like to just buy some packaged kale, but you could sure also go to your farmer's market and get some fresh kale or a big stalk of 3 or 4 beautiful stalks of dinosaur kale and wash and chop them up yourself. Better yet, have the kids tear the kale into a lot of little tiny pieces because right now it's not wet. We haven't added any dressing yet. But the thing about kale is it's a great vegetable for kids to learn to tolerate wetness, because the only way to soften up kale is by adding a dressing that has a little bit of acid in it. So what I typically do is I have the kids take a little bit of olive oil, and everybody has their own recipe when it comes to dressing. I personally like half oil and half acid, but I think most people are more like 2/3 oil and 1/3 acid. So the acid right now is orange juice. So I'm just going to put, like I said, I like about half and half. But remember, in all the recipes and Adventures in Veggieland, the whole idea here is that we taste as we go. Because I want kids to understand that not every taste has to taste great. It doesn't even have to taste good. But human beings are the only creature that have the power of changing the taste, because we know how to cook. And that's the beauty of learning to cook with your kids, is they learn to tolerate all sorts of tastes. And getting my oil all mixed up here. And once they learn to take tiny little tastes using their tasting spoons that are mentioned in your book, well, after a while, they start to figure out what they need to do to change it to make it suit their palate. And there's a lot of power in that. Here, once the kids start with the dry kale, then you're going to have them drizzle on just enough dressing to coat it. You don't have to use all of it. And in a perfect world, I want them to be able to get right in there with their whole hand and their fingers and massage that kale. But today we're talking about kids who are really hesitant to do that. So here's the tip that I wanted to share with all of you. Get any sort of rubber glove. Now, keep in mind that we all always wash our hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and water before we cook. But I really want to recommend to everyone that once the kids put the gloves on, you go back to the sink and you wash your hands one more time, because we don't really know what's touched the outside of the glove. If the kid perhaps put their hand on the counter, it just makes good sense to wash the gloves as well. And even when I'm working with kids in their home on feeding therapy, we always wash our gloves as well as our hands. So now I've got my glove on, and I would go and wash my hands for 20 seconds and then come back and be able to jump right in with 2 gloves on each, one on each hand, and really massage. The kids should be able to do that. They should have a great time. If anything, they'll be able to feel the texture and the temperature, but not necessarily the oil and the orange juice. If it seems like they're doing okay, then what I want you to do is go ahead and grab another glove, but this time take clean kitchen shears. And I usually start with the pinky finger, because the index finger, in my opinion, tends to be a little bit more sensitive on kids. I think just naturally that's what we always use to explore with, as our pointer finger. So this time I'm going to cut off the finger on the pinky finger of my glove. So take a look at this. If you do this with your kids, look how much of their skin is poking out. They think it's kind of fun, to be honest with you. And now they can get in and really start massaging. Remember to go back to the sink though and wash the gloves. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that right now. And as they massage, they're going to get just a little bit of wetness on their finger. Most kids are fine with that. And without calling too much attention to it, you can certainly say yourself, oh wow, I can really feel that on my pinky finger. It feels oily. And use some descriptive words to help them label that feeling. If that's going well, you can ask them, would you like to have another glove with one more finger? Just the end snipped off? Which glove finger do you want snipped off? And they can choose. But remember, just do the very tip. Eventually, over time, they're going to be able to put on a glove that has no fingers, a fingerless rubber glove. And before you know it, they're not going to need a glove at all. By the way, after you finish making your yummy kale salad, this takes about a half an hour for the acid to really break down the kale so it's nice and soft. And one thing I also recommend that you'll find in your book, Adventures in Veggieland, is you can also take the kale and run it through a food processor. Just a mini food processor is fine, and chop it super finely. A lot of kids can tolerate that better than the big leafy pieces of kale like this, but do what works for you. After I add my acid, I usually add a little salt and pepper, and then I want the kids to add either some dried cherries or some dried cranberries, but try to get the ones that are not sweetened with sugar, with cane sugar. Instead, maybe they've been sweetened with a little bit of apple juice. And we toss those on top, and then you could add pine nuts if you wanted. I really like slivered almonds, so I'll have the kids sprinkle that on top. And then they're going to give it a good toss and serve it to their family. Remember, if the kids aren't ready to take a bite yet, that's okay. Celebrate what a great job they did making a beautiful kale salad with you, and the fact that they're walking it to the table. They're so proud of what they made, and everybody else can rave about the taste and the texture and the yummy dressing. But it's okay if your child doesn't take a taste yet. Last tip, be sure to include a little bit of extra dressing on the table with a spoon so that kids can add more dressing to their salad if they want to. The kale tends to soak up a lot of the dressing, and the dressing's the really yummy part, so that just might encourage kids to take a taste. They could even pick up a leaf of kale, dip it, and try the dressing that way without biting into the kale. But hey, you know what? At least they got kale in their mouth. I hope you guys find that helpful. Have a good day.